about that. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Doing well, thank you very much. I'm going to be on here twice.
I see that.
Let me see.
I'm schizophrenic. I haven't taken my meds.
Bob squared.
Where do you live, Bob? You live in the city? You live in Westchester?
Neither.
Neither.
You got one. You got a couple of more guesses.
Putnam County.
Correct. You win the prize.
Me or him?
Which one?
I don't know, but you got to ask Tom. He's the MC, so he'll have lovely prizes for all of you.
I'm going to say I was right with Connecticut. You look like a Connecticut guy.
I am about 5 miles from the border.
Okay.
Awesome.
But I go on 2 screens because on my tablet I get a better Zoom quality, believe it or not, and better zoomability than I do on my desktop. But the desktop screen is much larger.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
So I can see stuff better.
Yeah, I wish I could figure that out. You see how dark I am.
Well, no, that's just a matter of having a light shining in my face.
Yeah, this is definitely not a 10. I'll tell you that.
Oh,
you got to get one of those circle light things.
I have one in my car.
You have one of those? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Instagram pros, they get I got to get one of those too.
Yeah. Let's see. Does that help at all? No.
So Thomas is back, and he's going to tell you now what you've won.
30 to 45 minutes of free information.
Well, in your absence, Michael guessed where I'm from. And since you are hosting it, you've got the lovely gifts.
Okay, yes. Behind column 1, we have this lovely cat.
Yeah.
Not for sale, but you could come pet him. You auction off coupons 20 minutes at a time.
Excellent. Does the cat have claws or not?
He has claws, but he uses them selectively. So if you get on our good side.
My girlfriend's cat and I have sparring sessions.
There's 2 of them here, and they fight each other.
Smack.
Oh, God. Okay, Luba's coming in. Here we go.
So what made you come up with this idea, Thomas?
Well, I just I'm getting started in the real estate business here in Westchester, and I wanted to meet and greet with a bunch of people who are already involved and kind of soak up stuff and learn. And so I just had some previous experience hosting meetups around Ableton Live and music, and just found that was a great way to meet people who are also interested in the same thing. And so decided to launch a group for this, see who I can meet.
Very nice. And let me ask you this follow-up question then. If I remember reading your profile correctly, you are in real estate sales also?
Yes. I just started as an agent.
Congratulations. And who are you with?
Keller Williams.
Out of where?
White Plains.
And are you part of a group?
I'm actually mentoring. Michael Brown is mentoring me. We're not at any part of an official team or anything. He's just kind of taking me under his wing and showing me the ropes.
And are you in the building on Bloomingdale Road?
Yes.
Who do I know in that building on Bloomingdale Road that works for Keller Williams? Excuse me 1 second while I hunt down my phone.
You got it, bro. Hey, Luba.
Hi, how are you?
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Well, welcome to the meetup.
Yeah, I'm excited to find some local Westchester people.
Awesome. Well, you
found him.
Come to the right place. That's right.
Found him.
Hey, Kalat. How you doing? She's muted. She's teleporting, as TJ would say.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for coming.
Yes, I am so interested to learn. I want to hear all about it. Excited.
There you go. Awesome. Awesome. Well, you know what? I'll get started, just not to keep up anymore. You guys' time. You guys were here, and let's get the show on the road. So,
yeah,
TJ, it's your show, so I'm going to hand over the mic to you.
Where I sense a little familiarity from the formality of Thomas to TJ. It's your show.
Yeah. So yeah, so we're gonna do just like a quick interview with Steven, and then we're just gonna open it up to, you know, general Q&A and discussion of all things real estate in Westchester. So I put together a few questions for Steve, and Michael Brown has also put together a few of his questions, and then we'll just open it up to, you know, anyone that has any questions for Steve, and then, you know, any other topic of discussion that you'd like to talk about. We're all here to just swap knowledge, basically. So let's see. I wrote down some questions here. So Steve, what prompted you to get started with real estate investing? What got prompted you to get involved?
So when I was so my grandfather started the trend, I guess you could say. He was a building superintendent, and his boss ended up becoming his best friend. That guy, who I know now as Uncle Bill, basically mentored my father. And my father did not have any sort of desire to become a blue collar worker. He wanted to be a businessman. He wanted to model himself after Uncle Bill. And Uncle Bill kind of instilled these things in my father to start learning how to buy and sell real estate. He said, "Listen, you could work with your hands or you could work with your mind." So he taught my dad how to buy and sell real estate. My father bought a couple properties before he passed away, and he kind of just instilled those same values in myself and my brothers, to the point where when I graduated college, he basically, gave me the choice. He said, "Listen, you can go out, you can get a job, or I could give you $500 a week and I'll teach you how to never depend on a man for a check ever again for the rest of your life." I chose the latter. Here I am, 15 years later. I haven't had a job since. And I kind of was just thrown to the fire, and that's kind of what prompted me to start buying and selling real estate.
So other than kind of just learning the ropes alongside your dad and uncle, quote unquote, what kind of experience did you have with like investments or finance or like training before you got started? Was it more of just like picking up what you knew from the people you were close with?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the movie with Joe Pesci called The Super, where the kid is running around with his father collecting rents. That was me. I learned everything as I was growing up. I didn't really have much experience. My degree is in public relations. I'm a communications major. And the only reason I picked that degree was because it had the least amount of mathematics. I didn't really have any experience in investments. What I did do was I read a lot. I went to a bunch of courses. The first book that I really read, that kind of like finance book, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And from that moment on, I mean, I kind of just self-taught myself and just went to a lot of seminars, read a lot of books. I don't have a background in finance or anything like that. I just kind of learned it along the way and made a whole lot of mistakes.
Cool. So getting into that, what were some of the mistakes that you've made? Since you bring that up, let's go right down to the nitty gritty. What are some of the big blunders that you've come across, and stuff you wish you could have known going into it?
If you talk to anybody who's actually doing real estate and doing business and any sort of business in general, they'll tell you, if they're honest, they'll tell you that they're making mistakes literally every single day. So like, just to give you an example, I mean, recently myself and my partner, we were negotiating with a tenant for a commercial space, and the tenant was requesting an easement from the property next door, so that way they could have access coming from the rear of the building instead of the front of the building. We didn't negotiate that in the contract. We verbally said it. We said, "Listen, we'll try to do it." We didn't put it in the contract, and then we ended up getting we were not able to perform. The tenants next door did not allow the easement, so it basically blew the entire deal, and it was a pretty hefty deal. I mean, that tenant was going to pay probably around 10 grand a month. So you're talking, it's $120,000 mistake just per year, just that one sort of blunder. So you're learning every single day. So you're making mistakes. I feel like you got to just make decisions, and you have to live and die by your decisions. As long as you're doing the best you can with the knowledge that you have at the moment, then I feel like you're going to be on the right path. You're going to make mistakes. And just the key is not getting down on yourself. And you know, that expression of like, you know, you fall down 7 times, you make sure you get up 8. Like that's literally how you have to be when you're in business, whether it be real estate or any other business.
So in going into that, you know, being that that was something you kind of didn't see, you know, going into the deal, what kind of like risk mitigation or like what are you trying to when you're plotting out one of your decisions? What are you keeping in mind? Like how much might I have to, what am I going to be able to tolerate in terms of a loss in this when I'm making the decision of whether or not to get involved?
I think everything comes down to an exit strategy. So, you know, when you're buying a piece of property, you don't make the money when you sell it, you make it when you buy it. So if you're buying a deal that you know has equity, so let me just give you, for example, you know, this property that we're talking about, it's got 10,000 square feet on the bottom. Upstairs, you got another 12,000 square feet. We are building apartments upstairs. So we know for a fact that even if we don't get a retail tenant below, that the apartments upstairs will be able to cover the property, the mortgage on the property, and still be able to pull our money out on a refinance. So you know what the exit strategy is, and you have to know what you can tolerate. So, you know, we bought this property 3.5 years ago, and we've been sitting on it vacant, and we knew exactly what the monthly cost was going to be. So we knew it was going to cost us X amount of dollars, call it whatever, just for argument's sake, $5,000 a month. So we knew it was going to cost us $5,000 a month. We knew it was going to take us 2 to 3 years to get this done. So you just do the math and you say, okay, I'm buying a piece of property for $1 million. It's going to cost me $5,000 a month in mortgage payments. So you just kind of do all the math. You buy it for $1 million, and then you say $5,000 a month per year. That's what is that? $60,000 a
60
year.
grand.
Times that by 3, 180. So now you're into it for 1.2 almost. You got taxes. You got to cover the taxes. So you know that you're going to pay $40,000 a year in taxes for 3 years. Add another 120 on top of that. So now you're into it for 1.2, about 1.4 or so.
Right.
You know that once I know that once I build those apartments, the property is going to be worth well over $3.5 million. So I cover it, and I say I'm going to go into it, and I know that worst case scenario, if everything goes wrong, that at the very least I could turn around and I could sell this property for what I bought it for. So my exit strategy is clear. So either I get the apartments built, or just the work that I put into it alone, getting the plans approved and doing all this to this point, I know that I can sell it for more than I bought it for. And I go into it with the capital knowing that this money's put aside to hold me over for the next 2 or 3 years. And if I hit a home run and I rent the retail, the sky's the limit. So, you know, you go into it with the exit strategy. That's it. So you buy something, you buy good deals. Don't buy a deal that you don't know how much equity you're going to have. Don't buy a deal if you don't know if you're going to be able to sell it. Don't buy location. Sounds very cliche, but, you know, don't go buy a house where you don't think that you'll be able to sell it right away, because then you're going to be sitting on it. You're going to be stuck with it.
So what are some of the ways that you
be prepared for that?
Or be prepared for that. Yeah.
Right. If you, like you said, you sound like you were prepared for the long haul 3-year strategy. This is XX.
Yep. Which I'm just learning. Like this development stuff is brand new to me. So, you know, again, I only planned for 2 years, but this extra year right here, it's a lesson. That was a mistake that I made. I should have planned for 3. But luckily for me, I was in a position where I was able to still float the property. I didn't have to risk losing it.
Very good.
Cool. So my last question is, how do you go about finding your deals?
Man, a lot of different ways. I think that the best way that I've been able to find the deals is honestly people, referrals. You know, the most important thing that people want to know is that you can close on a deal. So if you keep your word and you deal with somebody, you deal with an agent, you deal with a wholesaler, you deal with anybody, they turn around, they say, okay, you know, do you want to buy this deal? Yes, I want to buy it. You better make sure that you're able to close on it. There's a lot of people out here that are trying to get into the real estate world, and they're trying to do wholesaling. They're trying to do, you know, basically where it's like, okay, I'm going to put a property on the contract and then I'm going to flip the contract to somebody. You better make sure that you're telling that to the seller, and you're not out here, you know, misinterpreting things and miscommunicating things, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get a reputation for not being able to close. And then the people who are sourcing the deals won't ever call you again. So how do I source my deals? I deal with wholesalers. I deal with brokers. honestly, Facebook is huge right now. I don't know if you guys are on Facebook at all, but if you go
I
on
actually, the part of the lead up to this meetup was trying to post this event in several Facebook groups and getting, I guess the Facebook is turf. There's some Facebook turf out there that I was encroaching upon.
is amazing. And let me tell you how I found Facebook, by the way, these Facebook groups. I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about how to source deals. And they said, listen, right now, go on Facebook right now, type in your area, Bronx Real Estate Groups, or New York Real Estate Groups, Westchester Real Estate Groups, Connecticut Real Estate Groups, Putnam Valley Real Estate Groups, and you'll find a whole bunch of them. Jump in there and start getting involved in the conversation. So where do I find my deals? A number of different places. Brokers. So everybody here should be calling real estate brokers every single day. Everybody here should be, if you're looking to source deals, you should be calling wholesalers. How do you find wholesalers? You guys ever drive around and see those signs? Will buy houses for cash?
Yes.
Those are wholesalers.
So you call those guys. What do you have in this neighborhood or this quality?
Exactly. And you just build relationships. Everybody's either buying or selling. So you call somebody up and you say, look, if I had a deal, would you be interested in buying it? Yeah, of course I would. There you go. You just got yourself a buyer. Hey, listen, next time you got a deal in this area and you don't feel like closing on it, give me a call and I'll be able to buy it from you. Those are wholesalers. Also, you could literally you go to these Facebook groups and these meetup groups right here. I mean, everybody on here is probably able to source a deal. Talk to your sphere of influence. I mean, I'm going to go to my KW talk and talk to your sphere of influence, talk to people. What you do, one way to source deals is it's called bird dogging. I have literally 5 different people that know me, that they're just driving around and it's not even their job, but they know that they see a messed up looking house. They send me a picture of it. And they know that what I could do as a realtor, and I hope all of you, and if you don't know, I could gladly tell you, or maybe you guys can, how to find out the name and the owner of that property. So that way you can go out there and you can contact them. It's all about legwork. I mean, there's so many different ways. There's never one good way. You got to, put all the work in it from all these different sources.
So it sounds like you use a big net. You throw a big net out there.
That's like Gary teaches us. It's a huge net. You throw it out there and then you pull it back in, you're going to get some fish.
Okay.
I hope I answered that question.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah. Thank you, Bob, for sharing your information. That was perfect. That was perfect, Steve. Spot on.
All right, cool.
Yeah, no, that's those are like my big questions as the newbie. You got any questions, Mike Brown? And then we'll open it up to everybody else. And
absolutely.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Steve, to
pleasure, man. My pleasure.
talk stuff. And I'm excited.
Good. You should be. Listen, as a new agent, you should be excited. If you're not excited, then you're in the wrong field. I'm being dead serious, man. Listen, my dad told me that the real estate agent is the only occupation that you can make as much money as a lawyer and doctor without going to school. The sky is literally the limit, and you could become an investor. You could become a property owner. You could literally become a multimillionaire just by taking one 75-hour course. It's absolutely insane. And anybody who doesn't have their real estate license, I think is leaving so much money on the table.
Go get it. Go get it.
Yeah, let's get it.
You got a good
share
guy.
Your information. Yeah, no, you're right. And we got links. You can take it now virtually. Everything is taken from home. You don't have to worry about schlepping down to the city or going to Albany. Absolutely. Great advice.
This is amazing right here. This Zoom aspect. Are you kidding me?
It's crazy.
I'm literally sitting here with a shirt and I'm literally sitting here in my boxers and this shirt. This is awesome.
Listen, I did that yesterday and then I stood up.
That's right. I stay seated until this thing is over. So again, thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Steve, and thank you everyone for taking the time out to come here tonight and just to ask questions and learn. And thank you, Steve, for just being an open book. Most people that I know aren't as humble and as open as you are with the information that you've learned from grandparents, parents, and like you said, from having that big net of people. Mm-hmm. It's all about the people. So this leads me to my, I got a few questions. What's your big why? What's the end goal? Or is finish never is?
So I've been saying this now for the past 3 years. My end goal is to retire when I'm 40. I'm 39. I'll be 40 in August. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but then the follow-up question is, what do you mean retire? Retirement for me means that I don't have to, that I've built myself to a point where I have enough sustainable money that's coming in, passive income, that I don't have to get up and I could do whatever I want to do. I could work on projects. I could work on nonprofits. I could work on possibly running for office one day. I could work on all these different things. So my why is the freedom to do whatever it is that I want to do. So I literally put in as much work as I possibly can, so that way I can have that freedom. You know, again, I hate to sound cliche, but, you know, you work for 10 years, you know, so that way you could live free for the rest of your life. You work hard for 10 years so you can live free for the rest of your life. That's what I do. I literally, like, my big goal, my big why is so I can have freedom. And honestly, besides that, and probably more important than that, is to make my father proud. He's not here anymore. So I take care of my mother. Me and my brothers, we take care of my mom. So it's really to make him proud. You know, after he passed, we were able to get a street named after him in the Bronx. Wow. So literally, like, you know, it's big shoes to fill. And, you know, my job is to make sure that his name carries on, and his name is obviously the same last name as myself. And so that way people around us will always know what we stand for. And if you ask anybody who does Bronx real estate, our name is very well known, and they'll know who we are.
Absolutely. And something you touched on that, you know, they don't teach us in school. You know, we get all hung up and go to school for how many X amount of years. School's great. I'm not downing school, but they didn't tell us about passive income, and you touched on that. And I think that is really what I know I got in this business for, is to create that passive income flow that no one told me about. They told me to go get a great job and work forever and get the gold watch. So yeah, that's not in my cards.
They want more people in the workforce. They don't want people knowing these secrets. Because then it's just going to make more millionaires, and it's going to be more of the 1%. Like, they don't want us to know this stuff. And I don't want to get all like Illuminati on you, but the uber wealthy don't want more uber wealthy. They want to keep people down. They want to make sure they have people who are intelligent working in the workforce.
Absolutely.
So I say, screw that, flip it. Just get in that 1%. You know what I mean? Like, worry about it. You know, when they talk about those taxes that are affecting, you know, I don't want to get political, but when the taxes affect you, get to the point where those conversations are about you, where it's like, you know what, they're talking about my taxes now. I make over $400,000 a year, and I'm not saying I do, but I'm just saying, get to the point where those taxes talk about you. Every single person in this group is in this group for a reason. It's because you obviously you want to learn something, and it's all super easy to do. It's just put in the hard work, take risks. You know,
you haven't said anything that sounded super complicated yet. that is the strangest thing about everything that you and I talk about all the time. None of this stuff is, you know, physics and get the atoms and wear goggles and now I got to go get 8 more degrees. This is stuff that all of us on this call are super capable of, developing relationships with people, driving around, knocking on a few doors, looking up a few names on a few websites, finding a bank or two. And that's going to be our next conversation. You know, we want to keep having these conversations on how do we lead up to this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But let me stay on track so that you guys can answer your questions. I want to leave it open to you guys. You answered my other question, you know, how do you stay focused when things don't always go your way, or you know, how do you stay moving forward? And I think you said have an exit strategy. You know, yeah, it sounds like you don't go anything blind, if you don't mind.
No, you can't. You can't. If you don't do the research, if you don't know what you're doing, then don't do it. Learn, find people to learn from, and be involved in deals. There's no experience like shadowing somebody for a year and watching what goes on day to day. You know, and again, I hate to keep bringing this up, but it is what it is. Like, you know, my father, when I was 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, he used to make me sit in his office for 2-3 hours a day. And that was my quote unquote, my job. So after school, I had to sit there and I literally just absorbed, and I listened to his conversations. And as new agents and new investors, you should find a mentor that you could literally just sit there for a couple hours a day. And I know it's hard if you have, like, you know, kids and jobs or whatever, but you figure a way to learn every aspect of the deal, like the financing aspect of it. Whenever you do that class, I mean, listen, or that workshop, I'd definitely like to be involved in that, because that literally changes every single day. People don't understand what it takes to, you know, you can put an offer in, you can get accepted offer, but going through the underwriting process, it literally changes. Like just COVID in the past 6 to 8 months, it's changed tremendously. It used to be you could put down 20% and you could buy a commercial property. Now it's like 30%. Now they're looking for personal guarantees. Now they're doing a whole bunch of holdbacks. I don't know if you guys are familiar with holdbacks, but when you buy a piece of property, you have to go and get title run on that property. Title then turns around and says, okay, well, these are different liens and different things that are on the property. So we're going to hold back money and you're not going to get the full amount of mortgage. So you thought you were putting in 25%, but it ends up being 35%. You've already put your deposit down and you said it's going to be a non-refundable deposit. So now if you're buying your first piece of property, you never went through this, you just lost your non-refundable deposit. And you look like a jerk to the seller because you can't close.
Steve, do you do only commercial?
No, not at all. Not at all. You know what I spent my day doing today? I spent my day today shoveling and putting salt down on 2 different properties that I'm doing right now, 2 different small single-family houses in Yonkers.
If I would have known that you had that much experience doing that, you could have come and done my driveway. I'm still waiting for my plow. I'm still waiting for my plow guy to show up. He will be here, but.
And I was up
So-
at 7.
So let me ask Thomas this question since he's putting this together. So commercial, as Stephen will tell you, is not quite the same as residential. And to say you're doing real estate is a big, broad category. So is there a particular aspect of real estate that you're looking to go into? Because certainly commercial is not residential, and certainly residential is not commercial.
Who,
As I put
me?
you on the spot.
What am I looking to do?
Yes, because I want to see Michael's reaction when you give the answer.
I like Bob.
Well, but what I was basically looking to do was to get involved with the agency side first, and then
What does that mean to what does that mean to us uninitiated people?
help other people through deals.
Gotcha.
Gain the knowledge, using the knowledge, help other people through deals, accumulate a small amount for my first investment. And then I was looking to do some sort of house hacking where I live in one unit and rent out several others and try to subsidize my own living expenses that way. That was going to be my first goal.
Smart goal.
Smart, man. Smart, man. Great answer.
So,
And I just got 2 more. Go ahead.
I'm just going to follow up with Michael now. So,
Yes, sir.
Michael, in your scheme in your scheme of work at Keller Williams, what is it that you focus on?
So we
other than
focus on
mentoring other
residential.
people? Pardon?
We focus on residential real estate, the
say
day-to-day
we.
operation.
Define the we and we.
Oh, the real estate with Michael Brown and my assistant and my
Gotcha.
mentee TJ.
Your
know,
group.
My group, we focus on residential real estate. Every now and then we get lucky. I get a 10-unit building, a 20-unit building, or some mixed use. But the day-to-day are co-ops, condos, single family, 2 to 4 unit families in the Bronx and Westchester County.
And since you all know Luba, I'm assuming she works in your office. Is that correct?
Who's that?
Actually, no, it's
No.
it's
No.
their bedroom, and everyone working remotely now.
No, Luba is a guest, just like you. We don't know Luba.
Gotcha. You Polaruski?
Excuse me?
Do you speak Russian?
Yes, I speak Russian.
Okay, it's because it was almost a Ukrainian kind of name, but I wasn't sure.
No,
It's
and that's what's
Slavic,
great about
yes.
these platforms, that
There
we
you
meet
go.
so many people. And I think, Steve, you hit it like out the gate. Like, it's all about the people. And TJ and I, we have nothing to sell, no books, no programs, no $9.99 a month. Hey, join. No, we just want to meet people, learn more. I think for such a long
I got my
time.
checkbook here. I got my checkbook here for you.
Send it over to me, Bob.
I think
Bob.
for such a long
So-
time,
So,
I
so
think.
let me ask
Go
Steve
ahead, Bob.
one more question now. Which one of your family members is running for city council?
My older brother.
Gotcha.
My older brother,
That because
Dan.
Andy Cohen is stepping down, or somebody put a knife in his back?
Andy Cohen stepping down.
Holy shit.
He already did. He already stepped down.
Well, mentally, that's a different thing, but
He accepted the nomination. So my older brother is running for city council. He's also a real estate attorney. He's also who I learned a lot of the he actually sponsored me for the first time in 2004 when I left college, and he was my first broker. And then for 2 years I was under him, so he taught me a lot about real estate as well, and he still does. I mean, he's who I use for all my deals.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm checking
Quick
up on
question.
you.
No, I see, Bob. You're quick. You're quick. I see. Now, you already answered some of this question, but not to get personal, but what do you do with the money? Not like buying cars or anything like that, but is the money reinvested into more deals so that you can hit your end goal, which is create that passive income, or are you trying to be a professional poker player at night? Like, let's do this.
So listen, I'm gonna make this I'm gonna make a long story short. First property that I bought with my partner was in 2011, 3-family house, 175. We turned that 3-family house. We refinanced it. We took the money. We bought something else. We took the money. We bought something else. We took the money. We bought something else. We only take out enough money to keep ourselves with the salary. Very, very humble. All the money goes back in the deals. Do I have small, I don't have we don't have 401ks. We're independent contractors. So what I do is luckily my older brother taught me about Roth IRAs. So I do max out on my Roth IRA every year, and I put it in
self-employed.
Because I'm self-employed. I put very low risk. I don't want to say index funds. It's more mutual funds. Very low risk mutual funds that have a historical, over 20 years that return anywhere from 8 to 9%. I don't play, with the apples and the this, that, and the third, even though I have started experimenting with Bitcoins. But for the most part, I put all my money back into the deals. And I only take
until you get to this end goal, until you get to this, whatever.
All my money, I'm not liquid. Everything is out there in these properties. So, I have a huge balance sheet, but it's all tied up in these properties. So, I do that because I don't need to drive a Benz. I don't need to drive. I don't need to live in a crazy house. I'm very humble, very down to earth. And plus I don't like to have all my stuff out there. Some people like to show off their stuff. I like to have all my stuff in my properties and if I ever need it, I could sell a property.
And you said 2011 and 2010. It's not like you started 20 years ago. We're talking about 9 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Gary Keller says this, and not get into Keller. But he says you'd be surprised where you could end up in 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
All of you guys, you'd be surprised where you could go.
Yeah, it starts coming quick. Once you get the hang of it and you start locating these deals, it starts coming really quick. And I can tell you that over the course of the last 9 years, we started in the Bronx. So I'm going to go through it real quick. Started with a 3-family in Yonkers, 6-family in the Bronx, 25 unit in the Bronx, 75 units in Queens. From there, we sold, we bought a package in the Bronx. It was like another 8 unit, 10 unit, and a 6 unit, all small stuff. Then we ended up selling all the small stuff because it was very difficult to manage. We were running all over the Bronx, and you got a small boiler here, small boiler there. It was very annoying. So we sold all that, and then we were able to jump into the Connecticut market. We went out to Hartford. We bought, probably I think it was like a little over 200 units in Hartford. We were able to, somebody, a real estate broker that we were dealing with called us up and said, hey, a client of mine is selling all this stuff. He's got like these like some sort of tax lien. We bought stuff for 50 cents on the dollar. I went out to Hartford. Spent 4 years in Hartford building up these properties with my experience that I had in the Bronx. Then it became to the point where I didn't want to drive 90 miles out to Hartford anymore 3 times a week. So it was very practical. I said, you know what, let's sell this. So we sold that. We went to New Jersey, and now we've been in New Jersey for the past 2 or 3 years. And then we sold all the small stuff in the Bronx. And now I'm focusing on, again, as I get older, I'm about to be 40 years old. I'm looking for quality of life. I don't want to manage all these small, crazy things all over the place. And it's very practical. So like you say to yourself, as my life goes on, so does my business. And that's a beautiful thing about real estate. I could choose it. I don't want to, how many people can't just go leave their job because they have nothing else to do? I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm selling everything in Hartford. I don't want to go out there no more. I don't want to kick people off the doorstep. I don't want to kick, I'm in D/C communities. So I'm like kicking drug dealers off the corner, and I'm dealing with all this stuff that I dealt with growing up. You know, I didn't want to do it no more. So I said, all right, me and my partner, we talked and we sold all that stuff. We went out to Jersey, and now we're in like that B to B plus sort of class living where the people are making 70, 80, $90,000 a year. You know, a one bedroom is going for 1,900 bucks as opposed to, you know, back when I started, one bedrooms are going for like 1,100 bucks in the Bronx.
Yeah. I have a question.
Sure.
Well, it's Felicia Smith here.
Hey, Felicia.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? And how everyone else? Good. So I have a question. So you mentioned in terms of like other investments and things like that. And one thing I know I see a lot in my office, we have a lot of older realtors. I'm a realtor. We have a lot of older realtors or associate brokers. And like they spent all these years in real estate and they never invested in anything. How much capital do you think a realtor should have personally, whether it's your first, second, 5, 10 years that you build up? How much capital do you think you should have in a savings to kind of start on that first investment property, whether it's to flip or to keep?
I think it's relative, right? So I think the first thing you should have is you should have 6 months of your expenses in a bank account, and that's
Okay.
your emergency fund. If you're, I think you should know what your budget is. I think you should know whatever your living costs are. How much does it cost to keep a roof over your head, drive your car, eat your food, take care of your family? Whatever that dollar amount is, call it $4,000 a month. You should have times 6 in a bank account that you don't touch. That's your rainy day fund for your personal stuff. Beyond that, I think you should identify a market and you say to yourself, okay, like if I was looking to invest right now and start from scratch, I would identify a market. And maybe I would say, okay, I'll go outside of New York, or if I'm going to be in New York, if you're in New York, you really need to have about $100,000 to $150,000 to even get in the game. If you don't have that, then it's going to be very difficult to get in the game. Outside of New York, though, for 30,
Right.
40 grand, you can go down to Baltimore, you can go to Ohio, you can go to Detroit, you can go to these other places and still make money.
Right.
Personally, I wouldn't do that because I need to physically be around the stuff. And
Right.
that's, my strength is my experience. My strength is walking into a house and saying, you know what? That boiler right there, I think I could salvage that. My strength is walking in and saying, you know what, those windows over there, I could salvage that. As opposed to when if it's in Texas and I'm depending on a manager to walk in and say, we got to replace the windows, we got to replace the boiler, blah, blah, blah. I personally wouldn't do that. Not at this stage in my career. Maybe when I get
Right.
to have, you know, expendable. But I would say if you're in New York, 100 to 150K. Outside of New York, you got to do some research. You know, you got to do some research and see what houses are going for. Some
Right.
places buy a house for 10 and sell it for 12. You do that 3
Right.
or 4 times a month, you're making some good money.
Now, you said about your driving. I think you asked a great question, Felicia. Starting out, as realtors, should we be looking, I guess it's up to our tolerance, right? An hour
Oh, yeah.
around us to, like, how far realistically would you say we should venture, Steve?
I went 90 miles to Hartford. And I did that. I was doing that 3 times a week. So imagine waking up at 7 in the morning, driving 90 miles, staying there till 7 p.m., driving 90 miles back. I did that for a year until I said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to just rent an apartment out here.
Yeah.
So you moved to Hartford.
So
Listen, I don't
Yeah.
even know you and you're nuts. I don't go to Hartford. I'm only 40 minutes away.
Well, and the funny thing, as you mentioned that, so like my mom lives in Boston. My mom lives in like Milton. It's right outside of Boston. And for me, that's like 3 hours and a half. I'm like, oh, I made it quickly. So I think it does depend because I'm kind of used to that drive where we did talk about those options, like something in the middle because I'm in New York. You know, so I think maybe that helps. I don't know how you feel about teams or partnerships. I know you mentioned your brother, but let's say if, you know, how do you think that works also? If you have a family member that's in another state now, and you want to partner on something like the middle ground, common ground.
Yes, I definitely am all for partnerships. I recommend a couple things. The first thing is talk about the good, bad, ugly before you get started. Okay, my cousin over here, my cousin John, let's just say part of my language, shit goes to the fan. I want to make sure that this is not going to affect our relationship. Okay, let's set some boundaries. Let's say, okay, John, you're going to handle X, Y, and Z. I'm going to handle X, Y, and Z. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this into what's called an operating agreement. And we're going to start a corporation because you're going to buy a house in a corporation. You're going to put it into an operating agreement. And with very clear guidelines to say, you are responsible, Felicia, for this, and you, cousin, are responsible for this. You know, and talk about everything. And feel free to come back to me because I've dealt with this also, where I didn't do a partnership agreement and I ended up getting screwed later on
Right.
because the terms that I wanted were not necessarily so favorable because it's already late in the game. Do that first. And when your cousin says, oh, we don't need to do it. No, you do need to do it
Right.
because you want to make sure you get this out of the way and it's a professional thing to do. I'm all for partnerships. You need partnerships to grow. Because your cousin who lives up there, maybe one weekend you're going to go to the property, one weekend they'll go to the property. Maybe they're going to handle all the accounting and the banking. You're going to handle the maintenance. Respect each other's roles and allow the other person to make mistakes and don't hold their feet to the fire and don't micromanage them because you're going to make mistakes also.
Right.
Let me just interject here. First of all, Felicia, how far from Grand Avenue are you?
Grand?
Grand Avenue.
Where's well, actually, no, I live in Queens.
I know.
So I don't even know what.
How far from Grand Avenue is your office?
We're in Elmhurst, not that. Well, there's Grand Avenue in Elmhurst. That's why I'm like, which Grand Avenue are you talking about?
Right, well, there's no Grand Avenue in Elmhurst. Grand Avenue crosses Queens Boulevard and then it becomes Broadway.
Oh yeah, so we're right there. Yeah, literally. Yeah, right there on Queens
Okay.
Boulevard, 58.
Just checking. Okay, so if I'm ever in the neighborhood, I'll knock on the door and they'll say you're not home.
No, I'll be there.
I'm down there once. I'm down there at least once a week.
Yeah, we're right across from the diner, the block down from the McDonald's.
Yeah, I know that. I used to always go to that diner. Yeah, I'm surprised
Yeah,
it's still
yeah.
open. But anyway, so that being said, so I had a guy came to my meetup, and he called me about buying a property, and this is talking about going to Hartford and why it's not far, unless you're out of your mind.
He's out of his mind.
He lives in Cortland. Now, Cortland is on the Hudson side of Westchester.
Yeah.
He's thinking of buying a house in West Haven in Connecticut. Now, I know where West Haven is because I'm down in Hamden once a week. So we had a storm way back when, and I said, and how did you find this property? He goes, my real estate agent. And I said, and did you look at it? And he said, yes. And I said, and you're interested in it? And he said, yes. Now, it takes me, who drives like a freaking maniac, an hour and 10 minutes to get there.
Right.
He's got to come 45 minutes to get to me. What if he's got a boiler problem? What if he's got something else? How the hell why would you buy a property that's nowhere, anywhere? Steve had the advantage, he bought multiple units. So
Right.
when he goes, it's worth his effort to go because there's always a problem somewhere. But on a single family house, it doesn't seem to make much sense. Or even on a small number of doors, it doesn't make much sense to travel. And when you go to Boston, you're there to see your mom. You're not there to go to work. If you had to go to work and spend that time driving to Hartford and hit the traffic on 84 every day, you'd shoot yourself. So it's not
But then
really-
you know what? That you
No.
know that makes a good point. But that's like equivalent to now working as a realtor on the other end when people are gonna look for that end property and they work, I don't know, in South Brooklyn. Like, let's just say they work in Bay Ridge and they're looking to move up to yonder because they're like, oh well, this property is 100,000. And I'm like, but you have to
And
drive
there's
to
so
work
much mass
still.
transportation to get them to work, right?
Like just from the Bronx to the other end of Brooklyn, that can be 2-3 hours even from if you're going to like over by Sheepshead Bay. And that's Brooklyn, that's only, so yeah, that does make sense because even dealing with clients and these are not investors, they're just looking for a house to live in. And I always ask, where do you work? And I said, are you realistically traveling 2-3 hours to go to Manhattan every day because this property is what, 100,000? Eventually you have to give up one of the two. You're gonna give up something.
You know
The
what's
reason I know-
fascinating about you know those adversities when you have to, because right in the business we meet people all the time, they do crazy stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then next thing you know they're working near their house, right? And I think Steve, you alluded to it, you're like, a year ago,
Yeah.
I hate this, and then you're like, you know what, I'm moving to Hartford, forget it. Look, if you want to be wealthy, it ain't gonna be easy.
No.
It ain't gonna be 20 minutes from your house, because if that was the case, we'd all be wealthy and we wouldn't be on this meetup.
Hey,
Right.
you know,
I mean that humbly. I don't mean that to be smart. I just mean, I think, Bob, you're right though. I was commuting to Jackson Heights every day from
Yeah.
Westchester and getting on the Whitestone. And I would literally yell at everyone on the Whitestone, like, get out of, and I'd get to the office and I'd have to breathe. But if I was building wealth for my family, you know, then I might have to think, you know, but I think you're spot on. We just have to really weigh what our tolerance is.
What that option
Yeah, but
is,
guys, I want to just say one thing very important about what Bob said. Scale.
Yes.
Scalability. You're going to start with, Bob, you might start with one, right? But then the next property darn well better be close to that one. So you have 2 doors in that area.
Right.
Then 3 doors, then 4 doors, then 5 doors. And you build scale in one area because you're going to learn contractors. You're going to learn electricians. Let me tell you something. One of the hardest things about me going to Hartford was getting new contractors, boiler guys, electricians, just honestly workers, employees. You know, and in Hartford is different municipalities. There's a different pay wages. You have to learn different sort of things. So scalability, you know, like, so if you want to buy that one door halfway between yourself and Boston, that's fine. But then start looking around that same area so you have scalability.
Yeah.
So
Now,
Steve,
you
you
said as
have
an
some
example,
contractors, right? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No,
No,
I said you
just
said as
asked-
an example before, because that was a conversation we had, before this group, so.
Luba, you had a question?
Yes, I just want to know how you manage your properties, and do you have some contractors?
Yes. So
Because actually it's the most difficult part of landlording, deal with all the stuff around. To buy it, it's not difficult, more or less.
well, I mean, listen, I'll argue that buying it is very difficult, both aspects. There's no easy aspect of real estate. It's all practical, right? For me, I manage every single door myself. Everyone I manage myself. Everyone comes through my office. I rent every single apartment myself. I meet every single person myself. I make sure to sit with them. Now we're doing Zoom calls. I manage it myself. I have contractors all over the place. What I found, the best way to do it is you once you get to the point where you can afford it, you hire somebody that could alleviate some of the costs. So you have one guy that could do painting, can do plastering, can do a little bit of electrical, can do a little bit of plumbing where he could change a toilet, a shower body. He could change an outlet, a light fixture, a fan, paint, plaster. That one guy will save you a whole lot of money instead of going to contractors. I do have contractors for emergencies, but for the most part, I manage everything and I have a staff that handles most 90% of the work, unless it's something that I need insurance for or pull a permit for.
Okay, so can you share your handyman with me for a couple of days, time from time?
I'd be happy to. Where are you located? Where are you located?
Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow. What kind of work do you need done?
Oh, I need everything. But
Okay.
you know,
So
but I couldn't afford to
Just your whole
guy
Rolodex.
on a salary. But you
So
know,
Luba, make sure you share or we may have your information so we can
Well,
share.
what I'm going to do is, Mike, if you don't mind, I'm going to just
I don't mind.
put my email in here.
Now, Bob, you seem to have, so some of the questions you asked, you seem to have some experience. You're like, hey, I'm in Queens once a week, or I'm in, you know, East, wherever that is, once a week.
I just can't hold a job.
But you sound like you have some insight as well.
Yeah, Bob, what are you doing in this group? Are you looking to buy real estate? Do you own real estate? What's your story? You're quizzing everybody, getting everybody's backgrounds. What's your deal?
I'm good at asking questions. I've been unemployed under 5 presidents.
Wow.
I lend private money to people who flip and rehab.
Oh, good. All right. That's
And I also invest. And I also run a small meetup up here where I am.
Good.
That-
But
I'm
for me,
glad
it's
you-
always
When
been-
can we
for
go to
me,
your
it's always
meetup?
been
When's your
different.
meetup?
Right. We're going to go to your meeting.
I honestly, I don't meet over Zoom. We meet personally.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Because don't take this the wrong way. If I had to go to one more Zoom meeting, I'd shoot myself as if I was driving to Boston to go to work.
No, I can relate. I hate social Zooms. I can't just do. I don't do it.
Bob, let me.
You're like, oh, here, let's have a martini, you know. So I always do this because 1, it's interesting and you get to meet people, and 2, you can always pick up something. I mean, I was in a meetup last night on Zoom, and the speaker was somebody, you know, and it was, there's always something you can get. Besides the fact that I've learned now that Steve's brother is the guy running for city council, and Steve will be hitting us all up for a donation and bundling them. but it's knowing what he did and just bringing out the ability that he's able to say, listen, he's got a bunch of properties, but now he has a lot of units, and because he's got a lot of units, look what it took him to do it. See, he didn't mention the fact that he wound up sleeping there until after it kind of came out parenthetically. Otherwise, everybody thinks, oh, how easy this is.
No.
It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And when you say you're sleeping there, you're talking, a couple of hots and a cot. You're not talking, a flat screen TV that's as big as the all outdoors and, a stereo and, no, you walk in, you crap out, and the next morning you're out again.
Yep.
So and I've been involved in real estate for a long time, and I'm down in Ridgewood at least once every week or two, and I'm down in Hamden at least once every week or two. And I also have a
in Hamden.
I'm sorry?
I just sold a property in Hamden.
Whereabouts?
655 Fitch. Right off of what does the Hutch turn into? The Hutch
Merritt.
The Merritt. So right off the Merritt, I believe it's like exit. I want to say, what is it, 40 something or 50 something is Hamden?
The first Hamden is 60. The second one to North Haven is 61.
Yeah, so 60, you make a right, you go straight down, right over there.
Oh, off of Dixwell. Gotcha. I'll have to look around that next time. And the reason I'm down there is I was looking for something because Quinnipiac is on one end of Whitney, and Yale is at the other end of Whitney. So student housing, though, is not quite what it could be. I know the person who's director of student housing at Quinnipiac, but they want their imprint on everything. Hamden wants their imprint on everything. But for flipping single-family houses, it's good, or even for keeping and holding them, because between those two universities, they have a lot of itinerant staff that come for a year or two, visiting professors at Yale, visiting professors at Quinnipiac, or medical professionals at Yale. So those people will take a 1-year, 2-year lease. So for that area is good. But I'm all over the place, and I'm now developing a niche market to help people who are behind in their mortgage payments, to try to buy them time to stay in their homes, and work with them doing that. If that doesn't work, then maybe I can offer them a solution where I can get in. But otherwise, given the situation, it's a way for me to kind of give back.
Smart.
So, yeah, I'm like the stuff on your bottom of your shoe. I'm kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
You're like Charles Oakley. You're like the cleanup man.
Yeah, maybe. I can't clean up my driveway. I'm waiting for Steve. I can't clean it up.
Now,
It's called husband.
Facebook husbands, you said?
No, it's just called husband to clean your driveway.
Oh, yeah.
It's called husband.
Yeah.
So we got you two guys on the line. If you were myself, Felicia, TJ, Lupa, and you got 30,000, 40,000, your last few nickels, you saved it, you're ready to go invest, and you can't buy anything in the Bronx, can't even buy in Far Rockaway. Where do we go? And we can't go to Philly. We're not going to Philly.
I mean, honestly, like, what if your cousin lives in Philly and knows the area? You gotta go where you gotta go where you gotta go where you gotta do some homework. I get these random emails from this guy in Ohio that's sending me, like they call them triplexes and quadruplexes, whatever the heck they're calling them, but they're going for like 10, 15K. You could fix them up and sell them for 40K. It needs 5,000 worth of work. Go spend a month living in Ohio. Go out there and do it. You go wherever you gotta go. You gotta take a risk, right? It's all about taking a risk. As long as you have money put away personally for 6 months to be able to live, as long as you're not jeopardizing. And what you said, I don't agree with. If it's your last few nickels, you don't.
No, I didn't mean it like that. Right.
No, don't do that. I'm not gonna.
Don't do that
at all. What I would say, or go find a partner. Go find 3 other people with 30K and then go buy something and then build up that, form a corporation, do a partnership agreement, get an operating agreement going, and do something like that. Knowledge is the most important thing. If you know the market and you know what stuff could sell for, obviously you're a realtor, I'm a realtor, TJ's a realtor. I don't know what anybody else does here besides Bob, the lender, but, listen, go out there and learn the market, and see what the comps are. So if you can go to 2 friends that have 30 or 40K each, listen, I know I'm seeing stuff sell on this block for $500,000. I know that we could pick this thing up for 200,000. Let's do it. You already know, you're feeling confident because you did the homework. You go to Bob and you get a hard money loan, and let him school you on how to do that. We'll say that for another course, but you could put down 200,000, you know, on a property that's worth, you know, 500,000 that maybe you could pick up for 300,000. You're putting down way more than 30%. Maybe Bob will even lend you money to fix it up. They do that. There's loans out there like that as well.
But you know, what you said earlier, though, with COVID, and I'm not gun shy, but everybody I know who does what I do is gun shy.
Yeah.
So, of course, their being gun shy becomes contagious like COVID.
Yes.
So where before I used to lend up to 70% of an ARV.
Now you're doing 50%.
No, I still lend 40. I still lend up to 70% on an ARV. But now you're putting down 20 on the purchase price.
You
Okay.
gotta put down 20 on the purchase price. Got you.
So you got more skin in the game.
Right.
I'm still at 70%.
Yep.
So you just have more on the rehab cost. But again, it's
But that changes every single day.
right.
Every
Somebody
day.
sneezes and tomorrow it's something else.
Exactly.
And because I'm me and I'm myself and I lend my own money, and I have contacts who don't, but you know, they'll go to the warehouse and borrow. But they're borrowing from people who are also gun shy.
Hey, Bob, how much validity do you put in what I said about it being all about people? You know that if you've done a deal with somebody 2-3 times, even if it might not be 70%, but you're like, you know what? That guy right there, he's never screwed me. He's always made a payment. I'm going to lend it to him, right?
I just did that for a guy. I was looking to buy a property up in Binghamton with a colleague, and the deal fell through. Now I lent to somebody else who's buying the same property, but because my partner is managing the deal for him, he got my money without being screwed over.
Yep.
Because I know the guy who's doing. I know the guy who's managing his work.
Reputation is everything, guys.
You
If
know.
you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you can't make that payment to the bank, call Bob and say, listen, Bob, I'm going through some trouble. Can we figure out a way to work around this?
I had a COVID client who did that, and she was paying, I think, like $2,600 a month. And she said, listen, can we do anything? And my loans are generally on the short term because it's my own money. But what I said to her was, I said, listen, can you do $1,000 a month? And she said, that's very generous. And I just came up with $1,000 a month because I don't want it to default. I need the money. And we just put it on the back end and we just ran it.
Yeah.
Because she said it's $1,300, $1,400 a month, but she called me. She picked up the phone. She didn't default. She said, I might have a problem. What can you do?
Yep. As opposed to waiting for the first, second, third missed payments and thinking that Bob is not going to realize that you're not paying it. Because you could now, because guys, listen, the banks are people. They run businesses. At the end of the day, there's what's called a DM, a decision maker. So if you're being screwed, even if it's with Wells Fargo, there's a person there who's on the board that's making those decisions. So if you're having difficulties, reach out to them. Because Bob now is taking that $1,500 a month loss, but it's not really a loss because he's just tacking it on to the end. So when that property does sell at some point, this woman's still going to owe that money. That's what.
And she owes the interest on the money. Right. Now, granted, I'm without the use of that money, but that's okay. She's still paying me interest on it.
As opposed to having, red in your books. You still got, you know what I mean? You're still in the black.
And the other reason I did it for her, one, she's also a good client. This was a third deal with me. And for me, she only takes rehabs that she buys and holds.
Yeah. Yeah. Relationships, guys. Very important.
Relationships, third deal. Wow.
Yeah. It's right. So it's a people business.
Yeah, absolutely.
All it is.
Absolutely.
Oh, I have
The
another
same thing when you
question.
said earlier, if you buy somebody, like I think that Tom was mentioning wholesalers and because it was early on in the conversation, but I had a guy who called me, wanted to sell me a property, and I check into it also, and I called him back. I said, you're wrong on the taxes. You can't be wrong on the taxes. That's a matter of public record. That's not you're not divining anything from that. You go to the freaking website and you punch it up. He goes, oh, I guess the guy who did it for me fucked up. Yeah, I guess you did. He's already lost credibility. Why would I ever do a deal with a guy if he can't give me an objective number?
Yeah.
Right one. How would I ever trust him on a rehab cost?
Yeah, of course.
It's yeah. But again, your reputation. And it only takes one screw up to ruin it.
Yes, I agree. What's your question, Felicia?
Oh, as it was about taxes. So I know he said the guy screwed up about taxes, but I was going to ask, and either you or Bob could answer, is there a number in doing that research? I know everyone has their comfort levels And every area has different taxes. So you might see that $50,000 property, then you check the taxes, it might say $20,000. You know, so do you guys have comfort ranges of what those taxes may look like for you for stuff that you've invested in? Like no more than 10, no more than 15?
I try to keep taxes no more than anywhere from 10 to 15% of the purchase price.
Okay.
That's how I try to do it. If something is more in the Bronx right now, it's gone absolutely insane with taxes. So, you know, they've gone up tremendously, and that's because the city is gouging. And again, I don't want to get political, but I try to keep taxes anywhere from 10 to 15%.
Okay.
And just moving that conversation to my end, if you borrow money from me, because I'm me and I'm a small guy and it's my own money, if you borrow from me and most of my loans are less than a year, I make the title company escrow every dollar that comes out during the life of the loan.
Yes.
Because I'm not chasing you to hunt down your missed taxes.
Right.
And I had a colleague years back who wrote a check out to cover the cost of a tax problem, and he gave it to the guy who he had lent the money to, and before he knew it, the check was cash, the numbers were fudged, and the guy he gave the check to fudged the number, cashed the check, put it in his pocket, and took off. Don't even ask me how that happened. That's about 20 years ago. But listen, right, and you laugh, but you know, right?
Yeah, I know, but still, and 20 years ago, like it sounds long, but that was like the other day.
Bob, I've heard crazier things than that 20 years ago.
Right, but you know, crap like that happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the only reason I do this is because I'm learning from somebody else's error.
Yeah. So again, what I was talking about before, guys, was I was saying that the banks have different holdbacks. One of them on short-term loans is they make you prepay your taxes for the year. So Bob the lender doesn't have to go chasing you down. So take that into effect also. Talk to your lender about all the different fees that they're going to ask you going into it, so you know exactly what it is you're paying, and you don't get a surprise when you get that closing statement and you're like, why do I have to come up with an extra $7,000 for taxes? Well, that's because